Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we are going to talk about ally protection. Now, I suppose first thing I should say is, yeah, I don't have my hat on. My hair is growing too much. My head is too big, which you guys probably already know, and my hats just aren't fitting right. So we're going to take a little break from wearing hats, just probably for a few days, maybe a week, until I can get my hair cut, at which point they'll come back. So have no fear, that is coming back. The other thing I'd like to do is shout out my Patreons before I forget, because I really can't do this work without them. If you guys need account work, or if you just want to support the work that I do, the website, whatever, that's a great way to do it. There's links in the pinned comment as well, as the description of this video. So that's a great way to help support the work that I'm doing. But what I want to talk to you guys about today is ally protection, and this is the best damage mitigation in this game. A few months ago, it kind of blew up as this new thing. It's not really new. It's kind of been known for a while. But my understanding, and this has been through from the work of Napoleon Camembert as well as others, that the protected damage, the damage that they're absorbing from their allies, is not affected by the multiplier. So as time goes on, the clan boss is going to hit harder and harder and harder. But my understanding is the ally protection doesn't get that multiplier. So it's a static number that they're sharing. Normally you'd think, oh, they're taking half the damage. They must be taking so much damage by the end. Well, not really. They're only taking what they normally would and just a little bit extra. That's why ally protection is so valuable. Now, that clip was from June 5th, 2020, over a year ago. But there's been some amazing work being done by people like Victor TES, by Aang. If you guys haven't followed him, I definitely recommend it. He has just really smart with his work in the clan boss. And he did a great video on Hell Hades channel. He has a wonderful video breaking this kind of comp down and how this works on his own channel. There's been some wonderful work by Murder Inc. as well, really going into the nitty gritty of how this works. I don't want to go into the deep details. What I want to do is I want to give you guys an overview and understanding of how it works, why it works, and why you want to bring it into your team, and maybe some champions you can use, and how to build your champions for it. And I think that's really what you need, right? So understanding all the intricacies of it, I definitely recommend go check out, especially that Murder Inc. video was really well done and very easy to understand, very succinct for something that is very complex when it comes down to the nitty gritty details of it. So if you do want to learn more, I definitely recommend going and checking that out. But what I want to do is kind of break down the simple, kind of easy to understand ways of how this works. And sometimes you just need someone to say it a little bit differently for it to click. Hopefully that's this video for you guys. So the question is, why does ally protection work the way that it works? Well, it comes down to one very simple thing with the clan boss, and this is where ally protection is at its best. It comes down to this ability here called Gathering Fury. Now, I'll get into how that works in just a second, but the basic overall thing of how ally protection works is you protect your ally. You put up ally protection, and basically what happens is your allies the protected takes 50% of the damage. Your protector, the one placing the skill, will take that 50% of damage. So for example, in my team here, I have Taragi the Frog being the ally protector. Every other champion on this team is going to take half the damage, and then Taragi the Frog's going to take that damage instead of them. Now you would think, okay, well, now Taragi's taking basically 3 times the damage. He's taking 50% from the other 4 champions. That's twice plus what he already takes. So that's 3 times the damage he would normally take. But why is he able to survive so long? Well, that's the part where Gathering Fury kicks in. Gathering Fury is this thing where basically, starting at the 10th turn, the damage inflicted increases each turn. So the damage you take on turn 1 is not the same damage you take on turn 50 because of Gathering Fury. That's the only reason why. And this is why it's so hard to survive a really long time. This is why our unkillable teams are amazing, because it doesn't matter the Gathering Fury, it doesn't matter how much damage the clan boss does, you're going to survive 50 turns. Well, the thing about ally protection, this is why it works on clan boss so well, is that on clan boss, the Gathering Fury, that happens after the ally protector takes the protected damage. So the essence of it is everybody's still taking 50% damage, but the protector is then only taking 50% of the damage before Gathering Fury happens. So for example, on turn 1, everybody, let's say, takes 1,000 damage, right? I know the clan boss does more than that, but let's just say they take 1,000 damage. Well, with the ally protection on, they're actually taking 500. And then the protector, Taragi in this case, is taking the 500 damage from everybody else. So Taragi would be taking the 1,000 damage done by the clan boss, plus another 2,000, 50% of all the other 4 champions on himself. And so that's how it works. But at turn 10, that 1,000 damage, let's say, we're just using mythical numbers right now, becomes 10,000 damage due to Gathering Fury. And on turn 50, that 10,000 becomes 100,000. Well, the allies are still taking 50% of the damage, right? They're still taking, so at turn 10, instead of 10,000, they're taking 5,000. At turn 50, instead of 100,000, they're taking 50,000. An example. But Taragi the Frog is still only taking the extra 500 damage from each of those champions that's happening before Gathering Fury applies. And that's why it's so amazing, is because by the time you're taking 100,000 damage a turn, who cares about the 2,000 you're taking from your allies? What's really important is the fact that they're actually mitigating, he's mitigating due to that 50,000 damage that would be going on those allies. That's an incredible amount of damage to reduce. I mean, just incredible. You can last nearly twice as long. Well, not twice as long, but you can last a whole long time due to ally protection alone. And that's why it's such an important and powerful skill. It becomes even more amazing for your team when you're able to have 2 ally protectors, because then not only is Taragi the Frog protecting all your allies, but whoever's protecting him means that Taragi Frog is actually lasting twice as long as well. And so it can be an incredibly powerful way to make your teams survive a lot longer. This is unbelievably important in early and mid-game accounts. When you're struggling on Brutal or Nightmare, and you're struggling even to get 2 keys, bring in an ally protection champ. He'll let your other champions survive so much longer. When you're relying primarily on War Master procs or Giant Slayer procs, or you're relying on poisons and HP burn debuffs, then the more turns that you last means you're going to do a lot more damage. It's not quite the same when you start having crit rate and crit damage factor in there and you're doing good raw damage, right? But in the early stages, when really you're just letting the debuffs do the work for you, you're letting your masteries do the work for you, you just want to last more turns. Well, ally protection allows you to do that. That's why it's so powerful. And so this is one of the reasons why I always prefer Skull Crusher over Martyr, because for early and mid-game accounts, you're gonna survive longer simply because of that ally protection. It is such an incredible skill. And so you always want to make sure your champions can have that in your team if possible. If you look at this one here, even the stun hit we take on turn 68, 69 is the same damage that we take on turn 1. Well, Taragi's is the one protecting. If you watch here when this happens, you're going to see the number is going to be less than 1,000 because the damage doesn't change because it's happening before Gathering Fury applies. There's some other factors that go into it. The more crit damage your protector has, strangely means the more damage they take. But these are like secondary things. The primary thing is understanding how it works, understanding that you're going to share that damage and the protector's not going to take a ton. Now, outside of Clan Boss, it's a totally different story, right? There is no Gathering Fury when you're in Arena. There is no Gathering Fury when you're in Dungeons or Doom Tower. So that protector is actually taking 50% of that damage. It becomes a lot harder to keep them alive, but it's still incredibly valuable. I'm sure many of you, most of you, all of you have seen in Arena an Ursuga Warcaller out there or a Krisk, just absolutely make it impossible to kill that team because of that ally protection, because they're sharing that damage. This is the power of this skill. It makes it so much easier to keep the rest of your champions alive. Including the knowledge that we have about defense, you can really start to stack the HP on these ally protected champions, and they are allowed to last a lot longer. More importantly, what it does is, because you're taking half the damage, it allows you to build your attack champions with attack and actually do damage. That's what makes it really incredible. If you look at this team here, my Underpriest Brogni, who's right there, he's behind me, right? He's right down there. He's only got like 2,200 defense on him. He's only got like 40,000 HP. He's not a tanky boy at all. But because of Taragi's ally protection and the other buffs we have, like strengthen and increased defense, and Iron Brago, can't forget him, we're able to stay alive past 75 turns without any issue. Now, when you combine that with going at a 2-1 ratio like I'm doing here, then you start to get into crazy endgame builds where you're able to one key, put up 100 million damage, put up 200 million damage, or be someone insane like Victor TES and put up 600 million damage. I swear every single day I say how much he's done, and the next day it jumps up another 100 million. It's ridiculous. But it's an amazing ability there that he has, that ally protectors have. And there's some fabulous ones out there. I mean, Taragi is maybe the best in the game, but you also have champions like Krisk, as I said, or Tyrant, or Versulf the Grim, who we just recently got as a fusion champion. Not to mention champions like Vergis, who I think is incredibly underrated. Skull Crusher is so good. When you're talking clan boss, the only champion I can think that's really better with counterattack is Valkyrie. Martyr is an excellent champion, but doesn't hold a candle to what Skullcrusher can do for your team because of that ally protection, because it will keep the rest of your team alive and is such a valuable skill. So these are like this is why when you're building your team, especially if you're struggling in the early mid game, you're struggling at Brutal, you're struggling at Nightmare, even if you're struggling on Ultra Nightmare, if you can bring in 1 or 2 ally protection champions, all of a sudden your team is going to survive so much longer. It's going to be so much easier to get to that 2 key or 1 key damage that you're looking on Nightmare, or that 3 key or even 2 key damage on Ultra Nightmare. It really makes a huge difference. Now, it's not the only thing, right? You still have to build defense, you still have to build HP, you still have to find the damage somewhere on your team, but it's such a positive step in the right direction because of that. So 100%, guys, if you have ally protection, bring it into your team. It's incredibly valuable. This is kind of one of the new metas. I mean, yeah, we have the infinity comp that everybody's wanting to do, and I think that's awesome. But one of the reasons why it works so well when you have Krisk is because of ally protection. This same thing when we were doing, we're using these shields with Brogni and Taragi the Frog. Why does it work so well? Well, yeah, the shields are great. That is huge. But it's the ally protection that's getting us to that point. So you got to kind of keep in mind all these things. And if you can bring them into your team, you're going to have incredible success. And that's where you get to put up numbers like this, where you're getting, 90, 100 million damage without even really breaking a sweat. Yeah, it takes, 30 or 40 minutes to do. But it's worth it when you can just use 3 keys in a day and get 3 chests out of it. That's an incredible thing for your account. When you're building your ally protection champions, the goal should be build them super tanky. Damage is the last thing that you're going to be worried about. Your goal with your ally protector is to keep the rest of your team alive. That means you need to make sure you have enough defense so you're mitigating an optimum amount of damage. But it also means you want to stack as much HP on your champion as you can. My Taragi the Frog right now has like 104,000 HP. I mean, an insane amount, but you can see why. He's suffering more than basically every other champion out there because of that ally protection, because he's having to keep everybody else alive. And so that's what you want to be able to, you want to make sure that you avoid getting in trouble with, and you want to make sure that that's what's going to keep you alive by building that HP so that he can sustain throughout the fight. You want to make sure you have enough defense so that they don't take too much damage. And buffs like Strengthen can be incredibly valuable to that. Those are kind of the goals that you want to do. Now, one last thing I'm going to point out here. I told you I didn't want to get into too much details, but you want to build... Crit rate is great. Crit rate is fabulous, right? More damage. It's just more damage. But the thing you want to avoid is you want to avoid crit damage. Basically, what happens is when somebody else gets critted, your ally protector will use their own crit damage to multiply that attack. So if I put 200 crit damage on my Taragi, he's going to take a lot more damage when one of the other champions get critted. I mean, we're still talking, somewhere in the range of, a few thousand damage, but that few thousand damage can be the difference between surviving and dying. So it's important that you keep the crit damage as low as possible, but build up the crit rate. And the crit rate's always good. There's always valuable, but you want to keep the crit damage really low. If you can do that, you're going to survive as long as you possibly can. Crit rate's not that important. He's just there to protect everybody. Like I said, damage is the last thing you build on these champions. Their job is to keep everybody else alive. The ultimate carry, as you would say. Hopefully this will help you build your clan boss teams just a little bit better. Please drop a like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment down below. Are you guys using these ally protection teams, and how valuable is that for you? Has this opened up your eyes to maybe some other builds out there? Let me give you a hint. There's some amazing epics that do ally protection, like Rearguard Sergeant, and Jareg. These are wonderful champions for ally protection. Vergis is maybe one of the best. So pay attention to them. Don't forget them. You want to try and include them in your teams if you can. Okay, that's all we got for today. So till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.